Hey friends, Pepperspray Patti here with another video. Today we're talking about boundaries, which is a hot topic, something I love talking about because we don't talk about it enough. But the part about boundaries I want to talk about today is standing up for your boundaries. Does that mean you're going to have to be a rude person? Do you have to become a disrespectful bitch? And all those other fun words that are used to describe someone who is aggressive or assertive. Now, right there, two words that I used, aggressive and assertive. And that's what I want to hone in on is those two words, because there's a huge difference between being assertive and being aggressive. And I think that's where, especially for those of us, if you're anything like me, and I know that it looks like that I'm, and I am to a certain extent, an outgoing person, but realistically, I'm much more of a quiet, laid back, observe the room before I have to get comfortable before I open up. And I know so many of you are like that also. And so being, having those kinds of personalities where we're hesitant, a little more timid, quiet, reserved, more introvert. For all of us that fit one or many of those words, becoming assertive is a much more difficult, obviously, because it's kind of against our norm. And so sometimes I think what happens is, in an effort to be assertive, we take it a little bit further and become aggressive because maybe we're still trying to figure out the balance or what works and finding our voice. Now, here's the exercise. Pick a word. Pick a word like no, stop, or a phrase, let go, whatever it is. I suggest like a no or a stop because those are short, simple, quick command words. And they're things that we might be more comfortable with because they're so simple. Most of us at some point have said no. Most of us at some point have said stop. And we've probably said it at varying degrees. So what I want you to do is, and I suggest doing this in front of a mirror, but take a moment, stand in front of the mirror, and if you are super shy, super timid, a way to help enhance this exercise is to get your mean face on. And if you have to, stand up, make sure your shoulders are pulled back, make sure your head's up. You want to be looking straight ahead. You don't want to be standing there like this. And here's why. Stop. Stop. Now, not too much of a difference, but because I've practiced this a lot. But when you're down like this, it's a lot harder to be assertive because this is not a dominant position. Having your shoulders back, standing up tall, head up, that's more of a dominant kind of position, a position of power. We can look at it. And you want to be in a position of power to be able to have that come out as assertiveness. And so you look in the mirror and you just say, stop. Just in your normal everyday voice. Stop. Stop. I said stop. And you practice that. And if you have to, put that mean face on. Get serious. And say it like I just did in different levels of assertiveness. As you saw, as I got more assertive, it started to get aggressive. And you need to practice those different levels and layers because every situation is different. There's going to be a situation where you're just going to need to say, can you please stop that? And I said it nicely, and I even I put the sweet voice on it. Can you please, like I would do if, we were on the phone and you're a customer, could you please stop? Even saying it that way, I don't feel confident in it. And so that's a second component of what we want to look for in this is you want to have it send the message. So what is the message? What is your intention? My intention is to just be polite, but let this person know what's okay and what's not okay with me. So for example, somebody comes up and touches me on the shoulder and I'm not okay with it. I would prefer if you did not touch me. And I probably could even take that back a moment, depending on, of course, depending on the circumstances and, the situation. If someone catches you off guard and you're more startled, it may be a little bit more aggressive. But regardless, having that assertiveness. And you want to practice it because you want to make sure that there's no doubt. No doubt in your mind of what your intention is, and no doubt in their mind of what your intention is. And so that's why we want to practice this. So as you're practicing in the mirror, at that level of voice, practicing different levels of assertiveness to get to that aggressive. I said stop. Stop right there. Don't touch me. And then go back. But you want to be a little bit louder this time. Please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. Let go. Now I even raised it up a little because you get to that point. You can feel that tightness, that firmness, and I can feel it in my body. Like the muscles in my body started to can't even describe the words, but it's that assertiveness, that aggressiveness that I'm pulling out from within is actually coming out. I can physically feel it in my body. And we want to kind of put this all together because the reality is if you've never done something like this, then I don't know what's going to happen when you go to do it for the first time. Just like anything else that you do for the first time. I remember the very first time that I cooked. Let me tell you how much of an epic fail it was. I do a whole lot better now. As a matter of fact, it was macaroni and cheese, and I boiled the daylights out of those noodles. It was a bowl of mush. It probably looked more like mush or porridge or oatmeal than it did macaroni and cheese, more than like noodles. I do remember that my brother did eat it, but he's like a Mikey. At that point, he probably would have ate anything. So thank you to my brother for eating my first attempt at macaroni and cheese, no matter how horrific it was. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. But anyways, so we're talking about being assertive. Practice being assertive. And I recommend doing it in front of the mirror because you're going to visually see it. And it has to be believable to you. And like I said, if you struggle with feeling assertive or having the confidence to be assertive, put a mean face on. Get all, right. Put your fists up like this. Not like you're going to hit somebody like this, because I don't ever recommend punching unless you've been trained to punch. But just because this is an aggressive body language, and so we want to build that up, so that reserve, that assertiveness reserve, that assertiveness aggression is there for that moment when you need it, and your body just kind of pulls it up, and next thing you know is, I said stop. And then you pull that up. And now let's look at that one. Was that one aggressive? Borderline. Could have been much more aggressive, but it had that assertiveness, it had that firmness, it had that confidence in it. That's what you want to hone in on that. Don't worry about being aggressive. Worry about the assertiveness and practice that. Now, we're talking about this becoming assertive if that makes you become rude. And if you are practicing this, and if it's a priority of yours, to have kindness towards others, if that is a value, a high priority value to you, I do not want you to compromise it, because it's who you are, and I want you to be true and genuine to who you are. But I want you to know that there's a balance. There's a balance between kindness and allowing someone else to be disrespectful to you. And again, that's where we decide on our boundaries. And I've had people, after, having this whole conversation, will say, I just don't want to be rude to people. And so at that point, you have to ask yourself the question, which is a higher priority to you? Always being kind, or respecting yourself? Is respect or kindness higher in your list of priorities? Because if kindness is higher than respect, or respect isn't even on your list, first of all, I would ask that you look at the list and consider if you gave respect, enough concern, and why. Why is respect, why is self-respect, why is respect in general not a high priority for you? Because it should be, particularly respect for yourself, because that's where we start to get into the dangers of vulnerabilities, and that's where we're talking about, particularly in the aspect of self-defense. When you start looking at victims of domestic violence and sexual assault and human trafficking, one of the attributes that predators look for is somebody that has respect either not on their list or as a low priority, because having respect, particularly respect for yourself, you can't have respect for yourself and not have boundaries. You can't have boundaries and not have respect for yourself. They just go together. And so when a predator sees someone who doesn't have respect for themselves, that is seen as a vulnerability. And I believe that it is. You are opening yourself up, because if you don't have respect for yourself, then it's much easier for you to allow someone else to not have respect for you. So reevaluate your priority list, and I would consider moving respect up a little bit higher. And know that you can still have kindness and respect. Now, here's a story that I use as a perfect example of why boundaries and self-respect are important. There was an older woman that was in a self-defense class that I taught very early on, within like the first year that I was teaching. And I will never, ever forget the story that she shared. She was walking out of the grocery store, got to her car, opened up the trunk, and before she had a chance to start putting the groceries into the trunk, a man appeared and offered to help her put her groceries in the car. She said, "No, thank you." He said, "Oh, no, it's okay, I don't mind," and started putting the groceries into the car. Now, when he got done, he smiled and he walked away. And I'm pretty sure that he spent the rest of the day kind of, feeling good about himself, maybe gave himself a little pat on the back because he helped somebody and he felt good about that. What he didn't realize is that woman, after she said no and he ignored what she said and went ahead and did what he wanted to do, It left her standing there feeling vulnerable and scared. And in fear, she stood there wondering and waiting to see if she was going to be the next thing put in the trunk. The reality is sometimes people's actions are not meant to be disrespectful to us, but in reality that they are. That man didn't mean to disrespect her. As a matter of fact, he was trying to help her. But what he didn't take into consideration is she said no. She set a boundary. I'm not comfortable with you helping me put my groceries in the car. That's what she was saying. In one word, she said no. And it meant, I'm not comfortable with that. And when someone expresses to you that they're not comfortable with that, and you're in that kind of position where you can take that uncomfortableness away, that is our responsibility. That is kindness to another person, while respecting that person. And she shouldn't have to freak out and be aggressive and assertive and say, hey, but because people don't realize what the consequences of their actions at all levels are, it then becomes our responsibility to take ownership for ourselves, for our own feelings and our own actions, and to be the example of what real kindness and respect look like. And if she knew that, she would have been able to say, I appreciate the help, but I would prefer if you did not. Imagine what that could have done for her and how she felt about herself. Don't ever think that asking somebody for their respect towards you is unkind. Because that person, if you're asking that person in an assertive voice to give you respect that you deserve, that probably means they've already done something that didn't respect you. Again, this all goes back to you have to believe that you're worth it. You have to believe that you deserve it. Believe it. Decide what is most valuable to you and what you will do to keep that treasure from being mistreated by others. Thank you for watching another video with Pepperspray Patti.